guys, I hope you're having a great day. Today I want to talk about how to manage your time to boost your productivity. I know so many of you are busy and yet you have aspirations of doing things and getting things done and struggle at the end of every day with overwhelm and everything that needs to be done that wasn't. And so in this video, I'm going to give you 10 tips for time management to boost your productivity. If you have not hit the button yet, hit that subscribe button to be notified anytime I post new content related to women's health, hormones, or holistic health. Tip number 1, make a to-do list. And I know so many women have these long to-do lists that never ever end every single day feeling behind the 8 ball because it's never over. So what I recommend doing is each night or each morning, whatever works for you, fill out the top 3 things that you need to do each day. Not that would be cool to get done, not that you would love to have done, but like have to get done today. And do those 3 things first thing as your day goes, no matter, depending on how long they take or whatever. And at the end of those 3 things, ask yourself what's going on. Are you good? Do you have more energy? Do you have more capacity to do more? Do you have some self-care things that need to be done? Can you get some steps in? Can you exercise? Food prep? Like what else needs to be done in that day? But if you get the top 3 things done, you get a pat on the back like you did the thing. Because so many women, like I said, just in the day feeling so behind the 8 ball, and there's so much shame that like they're not keeping up with their life. And the problem is that the to-do list never ends. There is literally always something to do. And I feel that very, very deeply as a mom of 2 little boys and a business owner. I always have something I could be doing. And it has to get to a point where we just end and be good with it and pick it up tomorrow. Number 2, use a calendar. My husband makes fun of me so much because of my iCal, but I love my iCal. You guys, it makes me so happy to just look at my day and figure out, okay, when am I working out? Okay, when am I going to go on a walk? Okay, when are patients coming? When can I do YouTube? When can I do this? And I love to just look at it visually and schedule appointments, deadlines, other important things, self-care. Like I schedule everything and I know exactly when I'm going to do every single thing in my life. And I know that might feel really neurotic to some of you, but that is how I can get self-care and other kind of like non-committal things done in my day. I also think along these lines of being incredibly intentional with what your time is. So I know so many of us struggle with scrolling. We waste so much time scrolling the phone. And the thing is, I'm guilty of this too. I've done it. When we're doing that, we're not getting downtime actually because our mind is super stimulated. We're not being productive really. It's just a total time suck. And there is no intention behind that. And so I think that you can schedule time in your day to scroll because it's a thing. I like to go on Instagram too. But if it's rest time or downtime or sleep time, like that's not scroll time because that, like I said, is what I call like empty self-care and doesn't do anything for us, right? It's just sucking time down the drain. So be very intentional with each moment of the day, like what are you supposed to be doing in this moment, and do that thing. That also will help regulate your nervous system more with not creating so much stimulation and overwhelm. Tip number 3 is to minimize distractions, and this goes right along with the scrolling. But if you have focused work that you need to get done, turn off the phone notifications, the tabs, the distractions, all of those things so that you can focus, like I said, on that one thing. I also am guilty of this too, where I'm supposed to be like writing something or, whatever, doing some back end admin stuff, and I have 1,050,000 tabs open and my brain's like a squirrel, and that wastes so much time. If I would I think we think of multitasking as being really productive, but it actually makes us less productive because our brain has to switch gears so often and it makes us go in a million directions. So if you have tasks to do, do the task, that one thing, you'll get it done more effectively and better, but B, it will be more efficiently too. I'm a big fan of like batching things together in the day. Tip number 4 is to set your goals. I also think like intentions, purpose can go with this too. like, what are we doing? What are we working toward? What do we want our life to look like? Again, I think that I'm a much more of a fan of, instead of saying goals, like intentions of things. Because I think that like when I'm playing baseball, like a 10-year-old boy with my son, that is A, some activity, but B, it's bonding time with him. And I know that like that's the intention. Like I'm bonding with my son right now. Or if I'm checking emails, like I'm just checking emails. Like that's the only thing I'm doing right now. I'm not trying to do a million things, because I know for myself, and I think a lot of women feel this way, when I multitask and try to get a million things done, that is when I get really snappy and anxious with my family. Because there's so much stimulation and so much going on. So if I can just keep it very simple and intentional, that tends to be when I am a much more present, calm, happy mother and wife. Tip number 5, prioritize the tasks. Like know what is like the number one priority. And this kind of goes with tip number 2 of, making your to-do list, but we got to prioritize things in life. And we can't I think what a lot of people do is we pick like the 10th priority instead of like the first, and then this first priority is just looming over our head all the time. So prioritize your life and figure out what actually needs to get done the first, or what's the first thing that needs to get done, and what's the most important to you in your life, not somebody else's, but your own life. Tip number 6 is a big one that as a former people pleaser was really difficult to me, but learn to say no. I just saw somebody this morning that was talking about like relentless boundaries. If you're in a season of life that is really, really busy like me, and I know so many of you are, probably every single one of you out there watching this have a really busy season of life right now. We have to learn to say no. And I think my husband and I have sat down and like really discussed this, and we continue to go to the drawing board with this all the time. Each Friday or Thursday, we tend to sit down and say like, okay, we got this sporting event and this and this and this social thing. What do you want this weekend to look like? Like he trains for Ironmans and marathons, and I sometimes want to work a little bit, or I mostly on the weekends, to be really honest, like want downtime. I want to like lay on the couch, and that is like, if I don't get that either Saturday or Sunday for like a little bit of time, I come into Monday feeling like a whirlwind. And so I know for myself, like I'm a little bit more introverted, and I like social events and I like to be extroverted, but I also recharge being by myself in like my bed or on the couch and just like being. So I know for me that I have to say no to things so that I can get that, or I tend to feel like a bit of a disaster going into the next week and then have to wait like 2 weeks for that downtime. So say no to tasks, activities, social events, people, whatever, that are not essential and do not align with your goals. And I always say, ask yourself what you need, like girl times, social times, date nights. Those things are amazing. And sometimes that's exactly what we need to feel better in our life. And sometimes those things can also be incredibly draining. So different seasons, different weekends, different times, but make sure that you are saying no to things that are just over the top for you. Tip number 7 is take breaks. And I know that this is hard for a lot of you too, but even taking like 2 minutes, 5 minutes, 15 minutes here and there throughout the day can be incredibly helpful for like recharging. So like at a kid's sporting event, could you just like sit in the car for 10 minutes and just like, don't scroll your phone again. That's sort of like empty self-care, but just like sit there and like close your eyes and breathe for a little bit. It always amazes me, and I get it 100%, that the phone feels like what we need, right? It's like numbing to us. We numb out to it. It feels like self-care, but it's not actually self-care. If you are tired, don't pick up the phone and scroll it. Like close your eyes for a second, take a power nap. If you can take 30 seconds here to take some deep breaths and just close your eyes and get away from the screens in your face, that will help. If you can take 15 minutes to go on like a really nice leisure walk before dinner, like that is nice. Learn how to fit these little pockets of time that are just kind of filled with nothingness and literally fill them with nothingness. Don't find some like random thing to fill the time, like take the break. Number 8 is delegate tasks. So I always say this on like to-do lists for my patients, either do, delegate, or delete. So if you have a to-do list that's a mile long, like look at that list and either do it, delete it. If it's something that like just doesn't need to get done right now, just get it off of there. And if it's something that somebody else can do, give it to them. But I think, delegating tasks, even for those of us who don't like to ask for help, I am definitely one of them, but there is no medal, there's no award, there is only burnout at the end of that. So learning how to delegate is really, really an essential task and an essential skill of life. Tip number 9 is use time blocking. And we've kind of alluded to this through this entire video, but when we block time, that keeps us focused and helps you to just be efficient in getting that one task done. So for me, in like my admin time or in my business, this has been one of the most helpful things is like, I know when it's patient time, I know when it's email time, I know when it's YouTube time, I know when it's podcasting time, I know when it's editing time. And that's like the only thing that I'm doing. I'm not trying to like skip around a million places. And, back to one of our other tips, I turn off notifications and tabs and those types of things so that I can just focus on that one thing. And that tends to help me not feel as overstimulated as if I'm going from thing to thing to thing. Those things are not done as well as they could have been done, and I'm feeling way more exhausted by the end of it. And tip number 10 is one of my favorite things that I tell all my patients to do in life in general, but is to review, reflect, do an inventory. So many of us are stuck on this rat race hamster wheel or like autopilot that we don't even know. We don't even know what's going well, what's going wrong, what we are happy with, what's miserable for us. And I think that there's so much power in doing that. If there's a specific time of day that feels absolutely miserable to you, like let's look at that one time of the day and let's break that down and figure out what aspect of that time of the day feels so miserable. And could we change something? Could we delete something that we do at that time? Could we delegate something? Could we change it up to make it more palatable? We only get one life. And if your life is feeling miserable and overwhelming and toxic and all of those things, like we got to slow down to get it into a speed that we want it to be in. And I think that's really hard when you're just going from thing to thing and flying all over the place. But we really do have to do inventories of our life in our finances and our health and our wellness and our relationships and our parenting and our kids and our schedules. All those different areas need inventories and reviewing of what's going right, what's going wrong. And if we have the desire to change whatever is going wrong, then we have to first be able to face it and know what that thing is to change it. So I hope this was helpful. These are kind of like 10 things that I have tried to incorporate over the years. I'm not perfect by any stretch, but I have reached many times in my life where time management has been an issue for me. And these things are just things that I have slowly started to kind of incorporate and figure out work for me. And I just thought it might be helpful for you guys too. So if you are struggling with this, hopefully you found something helpful that could help you, figure out some time management. And if you have friends and family who feel like their life is just on like a spiral and they're struggling here, send this video to them. Maybe they'll get a couple tips too to help themselves feel a little bit better in their life as well. So remember that time is a precious resource. We only get one life, and managing time well is something that we can't get back, right? We can always buy things and make money. And I just heard my dentist actually say that this morning about a little boy who's going off to college, or I guess not so little, but time is important, and it's something that is a finite resource that we need to make the best of. So hopefully you guys found this helpful, and I will be back in the next one.